Starlight in her bones. Starlight in her bones. ANHARA Sundari, born of the flame, under all constellations whispering my name. Through rivers of time and the breath of the dawn, I follow the footsteps the star elders walked on. The earth is my drum and the sky is my throne. Ancient remembrance alive in my bones. Each pulse of my heart is a luminous tone, a map of the cosmos the soul has always known. He kai wakatere ahau, hiraro iterangi.
Welcome to the Wisdom Podcast of Mu, the Mu movement, the grandmothers of Mu, the Galactic Grandmothers, and all of the Mu families. So we welcome our beautiful sister ANHARA Sundari, who is tuned to a different frequency. Our beautiful foundational member of the Mu movement is here to share with you some visionary work that she's been doing and her multidimensional aspect. She is a multidimensional awakener, storyteller, healer, Akashic reader, and keeper of the living libraries of light. And also, she is a starseeded here for this great mission to bring us all home. So far, without further ado, we'd love to open the space up with a little bit of a karakia, and I'd like to bring in the karakia of kotahitanga, because that's what we're here for. So, he kotahitanga o te mu e te wairoa tapu. Haere mai kakahitia mātou ki tō aroha. Whakakotahitia nā iwi katoa. I raro i te rangi kotahi, ka hoki te oranga, ka tau te rongo, ko te hā o te mu i Manawatia. Tuturu whakamaua ki a tīna. Haumi e, hui e, tai. O Sacred Spirit, come cloak us in your love, uniting all tribes as one, beneath the one sky. Let healing return, let peace settle, let the sacred breath of Mu be embraced. It is fixed, it is bound, as we join together as one. So, kia ora. So without further ado, we have our beautiful sister, grandmother ANHARA Sundari, ASTARIA. And yeah, just perhaps tell us a little bit about yourself, honey, and what also galactic and genetic lineages you come from.
Wow, that is a big ask, but basically, I have a lot of lineage with the Scottish Royal Stuart Grahams, and also royal family with the Spanish lineages, Viking, and what else I've got? Irish. My grandparents were Irish on my father's side, and so yeah, I'm good at tapping my feet.
Got a bit of leprechaun in you as well.
Irish ancestry through my grandparents on my father's side. Actually, my father's mother died when he was 2, and he was fungied into a family and brought up in the Raglan area, and they used to swim the horses across. And so he's got a big connection to Māori people because, you know, the mother was actually Māori. And he had a very deep connection to water. And also he used to let the different insects crawl up him, like especially the weta. He loved the weta. So he was actually quite tuned in. He was a horseman. He dealt with horses all his life till he was 73. Yeah, he loved them. And we actually in our lineage have a lot of ancestors that were working with horses. It's quite a big thing. But anyway, going right back to my early days, my mother sort of said to me that I wasn't wanted. I was the last of 5 children, and I think she sort of tried to get rid of me. And of course, I wanted to come through because I was on a mission. And so I think when I was it must have been about 4, I think I was in a car accident with the family. And then I was in another car accident with my mother. So they were kind of those early days, the formative years of, the parent not being there really. They kept you in the dark as to what was happening, they were in hospital and stuff like that. When I was about 6, I was very unwell, and I was visited by some beings. They came into my room, and they came with this kind of energy. And I was like, I didn't really know what that was. And but it's actually that same energy has happened to me later on in life when I've felt them come in with the kind of energy signature. And then I remember when I was 8 years old and I asked my mother, where do we come from? And she said, we don't know. And I was like, huh? Like, really? She goes, no, nobody knows where we come from. So that kind of later took me into working out my whakapapa lines and doing that for all the relatives really. I did on my mother's side and my father's side, kind of like, a genealogist type of person and I love the stories. I'm a storyteller. So I loved all the stories, the good and the bad. They weren't all royal. Some of them were like bums, I suppose, in some ways. They were wanderers, but didn't really fit into this reality. That's what I understand it now as, And so I went on it, and I was about 14. I ran away from home. I actually couldn't stand, not my dad, but my mum. She was very rigid, and they didn't really understand me in lots of ways. And so I ran up to my auntie. She was psychic. And she got the police after me and everything. And my grandmother came to the door and said, oh, she's living here. So I was getting sort of around 15. I went to work in a psychopedic hospital in Mangere, actually. And that really, as a nurse aide, and that really kind of started my initiation into nursing. Both grandmothers on both sides were midwives, and so it was in my blood, I guess, So what happened after that, I came back to the Waikato, and I actually lived in the Māori Girls hostel for a while. That was pretty amazing. That's where I really started to connect in. And I also had a Māori boyfriend, loved his mother. She used to take me to the Māori Women's Welfare League, with their little pots of jam and all the rest of it. The swapsy table, still like them. They're pretty cool, right? And also she used to take me to the church, Anglican church, and they used to speak, everything was in Māori, So I guess with my dad and with that, I really found myself in Māoridom and also Indigenous teachings because I couldn't really understand the matrix. Let's just call it that. So we sort of went along. I started following the Hare Krishnas. I used to go up to Auckland and I used to stay in the temple up there and do all that. And I really loved that. But there was something to it that I couldn't kind of manage, I guess, because I had a child, and it's almost like you have to leave the matrix and, full immersion, really. So that's kind of a little bit about my life. Sort of a big thing about 18 years ago is that we used to have a teepee gathering, and, Sister Araya, she used to be in there. She was the youngest of us. And we used to learn about quantum physics and everything you can think about. We had an amazing teacher who actually gave the lineage of the pipe that you have and now kaitiaki of, which came from a white buffalo pipe calf woman through a lineage, And it was really ahead of its time, what we were doing. And we'd gone the journeys and do all that. But she asked us a question one day and she said, when the ascension, full ascension comes through and, we're in 0 point field, will you be here on the planet as ground crew, or will you leave your body and help in the Wairua Tapu realm? And I thought, oh no, I was a little bit up there. So I was like, oh, I'll go up there and I'll help from up there, right? That will be my thing. But that definitely wasn't true, because my spirit, my Wairua, had a different idea. And I am a ground crew, and so are you, right? And we're the navigators of New Earth, what we call New Earth. Mu was always a very big part of it, because I was lived a lot in the Wairua Tapu realm. And so, I did a little bit about Atlantis, went fully into that. And I know I have been in Atlantis as well, but I definitely knew and remembered my life in Lemuria. So, I was starting to get to know myself and really finding my tribe and where I belonged, because, because I'm tuned to a different frequency, I needed to find people who understood me. And I think a lot of my life was spent with people who didn't understand me and probably weren't like psychic or a seer or a navigator like I was. And it took quite a few years and going through different modalities and searching to find who I was. Yeah.
Oh, kia ora, sister. Thanks for sharing all of that. Like,
Mm,
what a life. And, like all of that leading up to, you as a young teen and then
mm.
becoming a mother and all of that. And so tell us a little bit about your parenting and, how was that for you and your life experience with raising children, and we fitted it all in, in your wider journey
Mm,
as well. And yeah, how that was for you bringing children into the world and
mm.
yeah, and
I,
witnessing others and witnessing yourself through your
mm.
the wider work that you're doing.
I think because I went against the way I was brought up, I kind of went to the other end of the spectrum, and I didn't really have a lot of boundaries for my especially my oldest boy. And I think you've got to come back now. I think a big part of what we're doing and what I do in my work as a healer is and a visionary is to actually have values. And so, I needed to find the values that would, help me be a good parent. So my oldest boy, we've taken him hitchhiking with us, and I had him when I was 18. So, I was just a greenhorn really. And but as I got older and I had more children, I used to take on other children as well, which is really interesting because one of my Irish grandmothers, she used to have a home for children without parents. She
Wow.
actually had a hostel, and she used to rock in her rocking chair, Granny McQueen, that she was called, and smoked a clay pipe. And she had, and it was her one was actually for boys. Yeah, and she
Mm.
looked after them. And so I thought, wow, that's interesting. Our genetics and our genealogy, because I kind of did that. I took children in during my life, still am. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you are, because
So,
now you're actually looking after grandchildren, right?
yep, and other children, like other children as well throughout my life. And sometimes I screwed up and I wasn't very good, at certain areas. Tried to become a better person now. And I kind of use my higher intelligence a lot to kind of navigate, the 3D realm with the kind of, you know, multi-D realm, so that I try to be a good example to them, but actually sort of have an open door with boundaries. So, I have I think quite a few of my children are quite psychic. in a different way. My mother was quite psychic. She just knew. She could read you quickly, like within a few minutes. She knew your personality, kind of person you were. But unfortunately, she's quite judgmental with it. Whereas my psychic auntie, she kind of took me into those other realms, and she was loving. And I think I always looked for loving relationships. I looked for surrogate mothers that had that loving energy that I was missing. And it's quite interesting now because we work with the mother grid. We're uplifting the mother grid on the planet, right? So everything kind of interweaves, and I feel like I am a weaver, and that's how that rolls. So, I try to be, I've got 13 moko and one great moko. So, I try to help them all and guide them as much as possible. And it's better being a grandparent because you get to play with them and have fun. It's not like being a parent and you're kind of too scared, to do the wrong thing. But, I know that you've had quite an amazing journey with your children as well and rearing them and how they are teaching us. They're teaching us to be better people,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I always remember we went in for this competition once and my oldest boy goes, oh, this is the answer, Mum, on a radio station, right, for $1,000. And and it was very simple. And I was trying to think of all these complex things. He kept saying the answer and saying the answer, and I didn't listen to him. And he was right, exactly right. He had the answer. And this is how intuitive they are. Yeah. So, that's.
I bet you he was pissed off that you didn't win the $1,000.
I totally reckon, He's like, why don't you listen to me, Mum? And that's it. Sometimes these young ones have so much wisdom and we don't listen. So that's kind of something that I need to really be aware of, even now with my grandchildren, my mokos, that I listen to them as well because they are our future. They hold they hold the collective knowledge of all the ancestry. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Which brings it up another question, actually. Have you had any unusual experiences that have also been witnessed by others that you've been a part of and can't, like a story that's unfolded, some kind of epiphany or
Yeah. Yeah.
experience?
I've had a few lots of unusual things. Things. My life has been like that, really. So I was in the King's Chamber. We were going towards the King's Chamber in Egypt. It was in 1111, and the Muslim Brotherhood thought the Jews were going to put the Star of David on the Great Pyramid, and they shut down the visitation of the pyramid on the 1111. And they brought out the army, and that was kind of freaky. We're doing the spiritual journey and they're bringing out the army. Of course, we were walking through the back of the army to get to other hotels, and I was across the road doing that reconnecting people's axiotonal lines, which is part of the Seals of Solomon, because at some point we were disconnected, call it whatever you want, the fall of Atlantis, blah, 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 all the rest of it. And I was actually told by Spirit, I got a message from Spirit that everyone was to go the next day when they let us in, that we all had to have had the reconnection. So working with these axiotonal lines and patterns and working with the magnetic grids of the planet and reconnecting the light body through the physical body and down into Earth. And so everyone in our group was, and then this one person goes, oh, I want to come on your journey too. And she said, but don't worry. She says, I've had the reconnection in New Zealand, back in New Zealand. So we all went in and there was like hundreds of people. It was a big backlog, right? And they said, in and out, that's it. You can't stay, 5 minutes, sort of 5-10 minutes. So we're out there doing our thing, jumping in and out of the sarcophagus and blah, blah, blah. And the guard came up, dressed in white, came up, and there's some people doing sound harmonics because it's a sound temple. And anyway, so he kicked them all out. And we were like, oh, shit, he's going to kick us out. But he didn't kick us out. And he called us over. He said, this is the centre of the pyramid. And he said he wanted to chant OMS with us because it's a sound pyramid, right? And that's when I saw the star tetrahedron. And something changed in me that day, actually, when I was in the centre of the King's Chamber and we were chanting the sound of creation. So that was huge. And I feel if we hadn't have had the reconnection, he wouldn't have picked us up. He tuned into us. He knew we were holding the right vibration, right? And it's a little bit like that when we go on sacred sites. When we all tune in, we synchronize, we have, altered state experiences. So that was that one. I can always remember we'd done the training for the reconnection, and we're going in and out of the hotel room, and we kept swiping the magnetic card on our entry card, and we'd go down to the office, and we were really annoying them. It happened about 3 times. It was because we were vibrating so high. It was really out the gate. So there was lots of things. The other one was at big things that we did a journey in Lake Waikaremoana. We went on a boat trip. And I've spoken about this before, but it was quite significant. So when we went over, it's, flat calm, and we did all our, multidimensional meditations and blah, blah, blah. And then when we came back, the guy's boat was wet, and I sort of said, hey, how come your boat's wet inside? He said, it's super rough out there. I didn't want to come and get you, but I had to. And so our teacher at the time, beautiful Salantra King, Even Star Creations, amazing, one of my teachers, she said, we've got to go into our light body. So we went in through our heart and we connected into our light body, so we stayed light, and we skimmed across the water like a starship. And then we got to the other side. It was rough, so rough. I was actually like, whoa, I didn't let my mind take me there, how rough it was. And huge, huge waves. And he stood up and he said, I don't know who the hell you people are. He said, but, we came back faster in this weather than what we did going over. So those are the kind of things. And there's so many more stories about that sort of thing. At Raglan, we were all sitting, we were whānau sitting there, and all of a sudden the big sliding door opened, a big flash of light came in, and the door shut again. And we're like, what the hell just happened? Everybody saw it, So lots of things like that. I mean, we're going up into Lake Waikaremoana. No, sorry, it wasn't that. It was Rotoponamu. And I felt this energy around my head, because I feel things first, especially in the spirit realm. And I felt this energy around my head, and I got Sister Shannon Duncan to take a photo. I said, Shan, take a photo of me. Yep, and around my head was this energy field, and it was the fairy people, the Patapaerehi. They were very present that day. So lots of things like that as well. So I always remember this other one. I'll just tell you this last one, actually. So my friend and I were up Kaioway, the Whangaroa Harbour, super spiritual place. And we row out in a boat, and my friend, she was looking for this zero magnetic portal. And she looked at all the different mauna, and she got the coordinations because the Māori people had told her what to do and where to find it. So we've got a little dinghy and no auxiliary motor or anything, just the oars, and it rushes out, the tide rushes out. And the tide changed, and she said, look at this. And I said, what? I didn't even notice because I was actually off there, doing my thing. And she said, the tide's rushing out, but we're not moving in a little dinghy. So we found the magnetic portal of the earth energy, and we were on that grid line. That was a very powerful thing. So these things really change you, and especially when other people witness it as well. It's not something that you kind of say, oh, this happened. It's actually witnessed by groups of people. But that was a very sacred place there, Te Raukara,
Mhm.
We had many, many experiences. Yeah.
The one that you're talking about in Whangaroa Harbour, a wahine just made contact with me the other day, sharing that
Mm,
she really wants us to go up there and
mm,
do an activation there as a group because of the
mm,
power that it holds as the zero point magnetics. There's a few
yeah.
places that have got zero point magnetics in
Yeah.
Aotearoa. That's one of them. There's
Mm,
also Te Miringa Te Kakara as
mm,
well.
mm,
That's another
yeah.
zero pointer. And, being the water marae as well, no
Mm,
doubt Roto Pounamu. And I'm also feeling that Te Kohanga would probably have that too. So yeah, some big, big
definitely.
stuff going on. And you during those times, sister, did you experience any ET and like extraterrestrial star beings,
Mm,
whatever you want to call
yeah.
them, angelics?
Well, when I first came back to Taupo on the first night, I actually had like a visitation, and I was like, "What the hell? What's going on?" It's like all these sort of like etheric ET sort of star being type energy, and I'm like, whoa. And the second night they came again and they said, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And I was actually called back to this area. I know I was to do the mahi that I do here and to help, build community here. So that was that. Also, do you remember when we went up to Tangiora and we had all the selenite keepers were there? And I was one of the first
Yes.
100 selenite keepers.
Mm,
And I knew the
yeah.
selenite was going to be the new earth crystal, right?
Mm,
And so,
mm,
but
mm.
these weren't normal selenite, these were from New Mexico. And beautiful Jenny Collin brought this through. And I was having multidimensional experiences of those because they're water. Water holds information, and they were coded and loaded. Um, and so we were actually having a meditation, all the selenite holders with our selenites, and I saw in my third eye vision all the Elohim, the creator gods came down, the seven creator gods, and they were like forming like that fairy ring in a way, and they were working on our physical bodies and
Mm.
they were elevating us. And I had some amazing, when I worked on some clients, because that beautiful doctor paid for us to be there so that we, the healers, could work on her people. I just love that. What a beautiful kaupapa.
Wasn't that amazing? Yeah.
That that was freaking awesome, right?
Yeah.
People actually flew in there, healers from Auckland and everywhere, right?
Mm,
Do you remember that?
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
was there with you, sister.
Yes,
Yeah,
we were.
doing the
Yep. And
also,
Tony.
I was also one of the selenite carriers. Well, I still
Mm,
am. Yeah, I've still
yep.
got my selenite slabs
Yep.
and yeah,
Same, same.
still working.
So that was quite potent. So the Elohim are created gods. Well, they're basically beings, you
Mm.
know. And so that was that. But do you remember the time that I was sort of like called outside at the temple in Korpu, and we looked up and we saw that star fleet right straight up. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
5 of
and they were
them.
coming in and out of Orion's belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then doing all these different patterns, and then they shot into the Milky Way, right? That was like really out the gate. But I was also with you when we were at the Araha Festival at Tiwai Pounamu. Do you remember
Oh
that?
my
And we're
gosh.
lying down listening to Kiki Pounamu, the Waitaha boys, and we looked up. Do you want to tell them what we
Oh
saw?
well, yeah. Well, we were just blown away by how many star beings there were up in that sky. It was like
Yeah,
flooded. We were
yeah.
actually kind of getting the inkling that something was going to show up that night anyway, right? Because yeah, it was
Mm,
during the time that we were to walk the Peace Trail and like
Yes,
everything was opening up for us and we
yes.
realized there was something significant going on
Mm.
and
Well,
it
it was an
presented,
initiation actually, because the Starfleet came through. They came
yeah.
straight across, and everyone, how many people witnessed that? There was a lot of people
Oh,
that looked
yeah.
up and saw that. They came straight over that. That's actually connected to Waitaha land, isn't it, there? I think there's some,
Well, yeah, absolutely. And we also at that same time would have been the same time that we had a whole bunch of 12 tohunga turn up
yeah,
and they were actually going to Castle Hill that or Te Kohanga that night and they were going to sleep
mm,
up on that big range up the top there, the Te Tiro Kura range. They were going to spend
yeah,
the night up there.
yeah,
And that's, have a feeling that was also connected to that because they were opening up the stargates, the 12
yes.
pillars of heaven at that exact time that we saw all those star beings turn up in the sky.
That's right. That we were there, the Galactic Grandmothers. We just birthed the Galactic Grandmothers,
Yeah,
and because we knew we were on a mission, right? We had a mission to do. So, and they were there too. The Tane were there to do the mahi as well. And so, of course, they're going to show up, right? Because we're
yeah.
ground crew.
Yeah.
That was something else, though, hey? That was so deeply. All these things that have happened to us, they change us forever,
Yeah,
on the inside, you know, 100%. Yeah.
definitely. And what about dragon experiences, sister?
Whoa. Okay, so the dragons are a primordial life force. And, there's the air, the land, the sea, all of those different aspects of that. And they were they're the creator dragons that brought all the ley lines here, the crystalline grid, so that we could have moisture and water. And so my first big experience, I have had a few. One of the big ones was we were doing a 10-day journey actually into the Ring of Fire, and we were working with all the volcanoes and various other things. And we sat in a riverbed it was ancient hot water, and we're doing like a deep meditation, and I felt like my dragon come along this ancient kind of riverbed, and it was like thud thud thud, and I felt it come up to my third eye. So it wasn't really in a meditation, it was kind of like a reverie of some kind of like an altered state, and it spat this kind of gunks white light stuff in my third eye, and things started to open up big time, really big time. And I realized that that was actually me, because as a multidimensional being, we exist in all realms and dimensions. And so that was that one. There was many, many other ones where I have. One of them was on the Whanganui River. We did a boat trip, and I just had an operation on my leg, and the others left me in the boat trip that was on the corner of two rivers. And it was a place where they did karakia to the dragons, the water dragon. And so they all left me, and they went up and they went on to the sacred site, and I was sitting in the boat. Again, I felt it. I felt the energy of it, of this taniwha.
Mm.
And I was like, so I started having kind of a telepathic kōrero with it and acknowledging it. Because the Tani that drove the boat, he said if he doesn't honour it and do a karakia, his boat always breaks down. And that's a fact. That's a
Yeah.
fact. So, we can't go into these sacred places and be disrespectful. We need to acknowledge all the other dimensions and all the other beings that exist in these places,
Mm.
right?
Oh,
Beyond,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, in the unseen realm, yeah.
Yeah, and
And
karakia is
so,
so essential when we're doing any kind of mahi. And,
Yes.
even if it's like standard mahi, we do need to do like just like how we have our kai, we
Yes.
need to actually
Mm,
honor all the
yeah.
beings that helped in the creation of that kai, every single kai we
Yeah.
have. And,
Aye.
that's something that we all need to bring back into our lives. If we're not doing it now, then
Mm,
please bring that forward because that's actually
mm,
essential for in gratitude and raising the modi of
that's
yourself
it.
and the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Wow, kia ora. That was beautiful sharing,
mm,
sister. And I wonder if, like with all the sound work that you've been doing and the temples that you've gone to and the sacred journeys that you've been on, has there ever been a time that you've experienced levitation?
I have actually. So when I do reconnective healing, which is tapping into the Modi, the life force, which is everywhere, it's everywhere. It's God, love, higher intelligence. And once I plug into that, I can actually feel myself levitated, and especially when I'm having it done to me, I've felt levitation many times. But when I work with clients, quite a few of them have experienced levitation. It's pretty powerful, right? So yeah, that's quite normal. But I've had lots of other paranormal experiences as well. I was sort of doing a catch up work with the Melchizedek, actually, mystery school, and we'd done an ancient Hebrew letter into our third eye, and all of a sudden I feel this kind of energy over on my left eye, out the corner of it. And I looked over and there's a huge sphinx, a light sphinx, like fully present. And I'm like, whoa, and it's just going through my body and just like shaking my body. And I said to my teacher, shit, can you see that? There's a huge sphinx in the room. And she couldn't. And then that night, I was uploaded all night with light codes, light diagrams, symbols, you name it, ones I'd never seen before. And something opened up. It was like opening up your DNA libraries through that. So that was sort of quite a big experience. Hey, do you remember when we were at Te Kohanga and Titi Rokura, we're doing ceremony, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the Black Madonna arrived through Titi Rokura because, I'm highly sensitive, and she got bigger. So I looked up at her because that sort of got my attention, and then it got bigger and bigger, and then she came right down the Black Madonna as the Black Madonna. So she morphed herself into that and was right around us. And it's like, oh my God, I have to tell you that she's here because she's, a guest. She's arrived from another dimension. And I think a lot of people don't understand my vision in that way, that beings do come to me like that. And reminds me of another one at Teimaringa Te Kākara, and I was called over to the leaning post, and I just sort of leaned against it in the marae there, and then I was called over towards the middle of it, and this multi-dimensional chief, he was a chief from the other dimension, rocked up with a youth, and we're having a kōrero, and he's an honoured guest, right, in these spaces. But next minute, everyone else is coming over to have like a closing ceremony, and I've got a guest here, and it's like, shit, what do I do now? Like, we have to honour him. So, I thought I'll stuff it. I'm going to tell him that he's here and acknowledge him. But he had a job for me to do, but it's kind of like, pretty out the gate stuff. Sort of the same. Do you remember when I was
Actually,
at
sorry, I gotta share something about Te
what?
Maringa Te Kākara. I just have this fond memory
Yeah,
of my
what's that one?
experience there, when we were there for a solstice event, yeah, and there was a
Yeah,
whole lot of uh people already were there, and we turned up as a group, And I got a message that there will be others there. Anyway, there were surely there were. But while we were in the middle of our own ceremony, these
Mm.
three men turned up.
Oh,
And and I called them the three unwise men because they turn up, and here we are with our dragon po, and here's me with Hine Tarakona, who's like this huge dragon po, and like I'm kind of working with the dragons in a big way there.
yeah,
And the patupairi here are fully all around us. They're coming out of all the cabins from beneath and all around us. They surrounded these tane, and then they said, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" So I had to announce that I'm here representing all the Taniwha kingdoms and all the patupairi here in the whole liminal realm. And
oh, love it.
and then next minute, like about 6 months later, he was actually the leading man for Billy, yeah, representing his own party. Do you remember
Yeah,
how he was like
yeah.
having a lot of support from all the freedom people? Well, I went
Mm,
to go and support him with that same dragon bow. And there's the priest. I didn't know he was a priest. He was
mm,
like a religious priest, like holding space and being one of the protectorates for Billy. So yeah,
mm,
that was so super
mm.
interesting. And we called him the
Oh my
three
gosh.
unwise men.
It's so funny, eh? Honey Tarakona, she had actually stirred a lot of shit, right?
Yeah, and the worst thing about Tene Tarakona, like here I am going to the protest with this big dragon, and people are looking at
Yeah,
me like, like I didn't
yeah,
realize they
you're
were all,
evil.
most of them were Christians, and here I am with all these whānau people representing Billy
Yeah,
who want to
yeah,
stand and have photos with me and the dragon. And it was totally against their principles. I had no idea. So yeah, it was,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that did stir a lot of crap with the Christians, didn't it?
They
Which
did
is
not
really,
like
isn't
it.
this? They didn't like it. And this is really our life, though. We're like the little patapairi, the fairy people, bringing in the other realms, meeting like Christianity, not judging them, because we've done that too, but
Yeah,
we're meeting these two worlds meeting, and often we're not accepted. And that
yeah,
really is even, being galactic grandmothers, and, our name change and how we've like fully honored who we are. We are a galactic, we're
yeah,
cosmic, plus, but we embody it through the body. We're grounded. We're, you and I are both body workers, right? We both work with the body and the body intelligence. And so, we're wise women in lots of ways. And, but yeah, I felt that same rift, that same thing I got when I was young, not being accepted because we we're a little bit woo woo, you know,
mm,
just because people don't understand us, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And, it's a little bit like ADHD kids or autism, all of that. We're probably all on the spectrum in some way. But yeah, this is, I'm just standing up for us, man. We're real, eh? We just
Well,
come from, we're just tuned to a different frequency, right?
well, that's exactly right. And I love what you're saying right at the beginning. This interview
Mm,
was an interview with someone who was tuned to a different frequency, the
yeah, yeah,
neurodivergence and neurodiverse
yeah,
that are a little
yeah,
bit different to just, a lot of the
mm,
NPCs and a lot of people that are
yeah,
just, like zombies, more or less, out there in the
mm,
world, repeating patterns and programs that they've been regurgitating for a long time. So I
mm,
like that
mm,
you're coming from a much more spatially aware center and that you're, a
mm,
quantum thinker. This is how we change dimensions. This is how we shift the
yeah,
switch on this
mm,
reality. We have to do things
yeah.
differently. So
Yeah, we've
yeah.
done the hard yards. I also love to talk about the crystals and my experience with crystals. I know you've
Yes.
had many. Um, I remember out at the Kaimanawa Wall that day. You remember that? And
Oh my gosh.
the brother found the little tiny star tetrahedron, wasn't it? Little
Yeah.
tiny crystal. And him and I put it in the wall somewhere in the Kaimanawa Wall. And then it teleported to your place.
It teleported to my place.
yeah,
Like, I couldn't
yeah,
believe
it
it. It
did.
just showed up.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, I was like, how
yeah,
the heck? This is
yeah,
exactly the same crystal.
yeah, yeah. Well, it was the same as my one, similar story actually. I went down to see John of God, and long story short, I actually met his interpreter that was here in New Zealand. We became good friends, and she had the crystal light bed. They were potent. They were like 7 chakras, big lights comes over your body, and man, that just really expanded my light body as well. Anyway, we were started running events together, and this one day I thought, oh, I'll just tune into Wairua, and I said, oh, Supreme Creator, just tell me if this is real, because I've got to check in. And so opened my door, and I walked out on my little deck, and this big kerero went straight past my face. And I thought, yep, that'll do me. So before I left, I had 3 amethyst crystals, and they're all round about the same size. But I'd given one away, and normally I like to work with three of those same ones at that time. And I said to myself, I wish I hadn't have given the 3rd one away. So let's roll forward, and we ring this huge big workshop, same as they did in the casa, same trip. The sister, she did the crystal light bed, plus she channeled these doctors that are entities that come through and want to help us in this plane. Anyway, I went to tidy up because I used to always set up the rooms and stuff, pretty much like I do now. And and when I went to pack up, there was 3 of these crystals there, because remember I gave one away, so I only had 2, and there was 3. And so I'm asking everyone in the room, did you put that other crystal there? Did you put that other crystal there? And just asking, right? Nobody put the crystal there. So then I had to ask myself, well, who put the crystal there? Did Yeshua put it there? Did the divine beings put it there? Or did I teleport it? And I muscle tested. I teleported that there, the same as you did. We've got to own these things, because, Yeshua said these things you'll do more. These are the more things that we can do when we truly focus on it. And I thought, wow, these are the gifts that are within us. We don't have to go and earn them. They're already within us. And so that was kind of quite profound. One other big one that really changed me with the crystalline grid was we're doing deep meditation, not medication. Well, it was like a
Same,
medication.
same.
Same, Anyway, I was just trying to think where I was. We're on the Cape somewhere. And anyway, we're in deep meditation, and I had a big, huge Lemurian about this big, really big. And I had it in my lap, and I was in this kind of reverie again. It was like an awakened state, but it would have been in the sort of delta state, I guess, something like that. And this big eagle, which I believe was a hokioi, which I had another, spiritual experience with further on, many years later. It picked it up out of my hands energetically, flew around the group, and it came back around and it dropped it in my crown chakra, and I saw it go plop, 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 right down my chakras. And I saw the crystalline grid, and there was a hole in the crystalline grid, and it went back down in there and locked in. And it was like missing from the crystalline grid. And that's really amazing. It's like it was a missing piece. And we can just we can tell multiple stories, because we're storytellers, about why that happened. But I had another experience with the crystals that was really blew me away. So Kaumatua, he asked me to come and visit this big, huge quartz crystal that had been taken out of the bush. So I went to his whare, and I held onto his tuku stick, which is actually carved with all the whakapapa right back up to the stars. And there was a crystal on the top of it. And I held that, and I went to walk towards this big crystal, huge, it was huge. and I started this wailing, and I was freaking them out, man. I was channeling this ancient, sounded like a Maori kuia wailing, and it just went on and on and on. And all I can understand about that is that it was that this crystal had come out of the crystalline grid, that somehow it had been displaced. What's your feeling about that? What are you feeling about that?
Well, crystals are like acupuncture lines, and
Mm,
when we have them on the ground, on surfaced, they're like, it's like the opposite to how we put needles in our
mm,
body. So
mm,
it's like it needed to be placed in a particular location, is my sensing. And
yeah.
perhaps that's why you were
Mm,
feeling the pody around that. You
yeah.
needed to find the right placement for it.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, yeah. Powerful stuff, sister. We've got so many stories to tell because every time we journey, it's always an adventure because we do tap into these other realms. And I think we always could. Like, what about you as a child? What was your life like?
Oh
Um,
gosh. Well, I used to do a lot of dreaming, and I had a lot
mm,
of imaginary friends. And I had my own reality field. Nobody else knew about
mm,
it. But I used
mm,
to like being by myself a lot. So I could be in my imagineering, because that's where I found my comfort the most.
mm,
And
mm,
so, yeah,
yeah.
but very, very
Mm,
quantum in my thinking,
mm,
never understood why people compete with each other, never understood why we went to school. I really did not appreciate going to school and being
mm,
humiliated. Like I was dyslexic as well, so trying to fit in was tricky. And
mm,
unless you were a good reader writer, of course now I'm an expert speller, and I'm really good at all of the stuff that I struggled with when I was a kid. But it's because I actually am
mm,
finding things that I'm enjoying researching about and writing about and articulating around.
mm,
But, way back in the day, I
mm,
I couldn't understand why we had to repeat things that already existed, and why aren't we creating new
mm,
possibilities to that,
mm,
like none of it
mm.
made sense. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, you just triggered me then about my first humiliation at school. So I must have been about, I don't know, I probably about eight, again, eight or no, maybe nine. And I was doing this piece of artwork and I was like really engrossed in it. And I stayed in when at playtime and they all went out. And I must have gone off in these dimensions drawing this, this picture. And I didn't hear them come back in. And so my teacher, I never heard anything. I was just there. That's it. I tapped into that and that's where I was. And my teacher came back around behind me and she lifted me up and she took me back to my seat. And I felt so humiliated. And how many times do kids get humiliated at school? You know, I hated the school system. I
Mm.
knew it was sort of corrupt. It wasn't right. It wasn't for right-brained people. I was slightly dyslexic as well. And, I learnt better, in doing teaching like polytechs and stuff like that, where you're more self-motivated to do things,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
not being told what to do. I've
Mm.
never really been good at being told what to do. I like to create it. I like to create it. And
Mm.
so I think a lot of my early days, as I started with the psychopedic nursing at Mangere Hospital and Training Centre, and then that led me on to my nursing, led me on to all the multiple modalities I do now, and my mahi that I still do to this day, working in the quantum field, working with the light body. We do a lot of Romi, Miri, Lemurian body work that you taught me. I
Mm.
blend all that in. That's powerful. Let's talk about that. Whoa.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty special stuff, right, sister?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was transmitted to me by a Lemurian being and all of the human family that he connects in with,
Mm,
which we're all in spirit realm, and a huge download and transmission directly to me on this one particular day, which was probably just after New Year's, probably around the Sirius kind of perihelion doorway, which is when I seem to get a lot of my big transmissions. And I hadn't worked it out until quite recently. But yes, I was given this huge lineage that I had to decipher and turn into something really tangible and then teach it to people. I mean, I was already a bodyworker. I'd already been a bodyworker for about 20 years when I received this coding. And
mm,
so that was 2012 as well when I received that. So
mm,
that year was huge. And then I had to teach it to, as soon as I received it, I had to then share it. So I shared it for probably about 5 years of training people. Now, there's a few
mm,
people who are trained in the kahara te techniques, which is using te whē, sound, using crystal gridding beneath the table. It's using the Lemurian heated stones on the body, which are all stones from the Kermadics or the Kemetics, which is the Kemetic principles, all coded and loaded. And they're all like a Lemurian jasper stone. And also, yeah, working with, well, deep muscular
mm,
releasing of the
mm,
trigger points in the body through the trigger point techniques. And so it's using a little bit of MIDI and ROMI together.
mm,
So, yeah, that was been massive transmitting
mm.
that for all those years.
You and I have run a lot of workshops together with the Lemurian bodywork, heaps of priestess stuff. We've been doing
Mm,
this mahi for a long time. We're not new kids on the block, you know,
yeah, yeah, that's true.
and powerful, powerful stuff. But I was actually, just before you had your experience in that portal, my friend and I had been playing in there, and I was going, far out, man, look at the trees through here. So it was a different vortex. I was going far out, and they were
Yeah.
all turned and twisted like this. And I
Yeah.
said, this is a ley line. We're right on a powerful ley line here, a major ley line. And she's going, wow. And we were playing in there. And then later, you had the experience in there.
Yes.
But there was a guy there. I was trying to remember at the festival. I used to love those festivals, right? So powerful, such a powerful place. The Coromandel Man's full of crystals. And he got an activation in Egypt. So he had stayed back. This is way back in the day. And he was in the king's chamber. And there used to be like a little cupboard or something. And he hid in there. And because he wanted, to see what happened. And this is basically the story, not, totally correct, but he heard this noise, and it kind of like this huge big noise. And and what happened was, it's something they call the Sekhem, and he was activated by it.
Mm.
It's the Divine Mother, because it's actually like a Divine Mother temple, sound temple. and and it changed him, and he held this current, this frequency, and he activated me there as well. I
Wow.
went in for one of his sections and he activated me, and so I started, because it was like pouring out of my hands, and so I started working with my clients as well, and they were having like these outer world experiences and stuff. What is it really? It's just experiencing yourself as a multidimensional being. Okay,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
and other planes, times, and dimensions, and that we're not just physical. In fact, our physical body is in our spirit, wider self, right? So
Mm.
these are the sort of things that have happened to us, and the beautiful people we've met. Like I said before, Salantra King was one of my big teachers. Judy Satori's work, far out with all her light language activations. tapping in. She was one of the forerunners as well. Amazing person. Helen Barnes, light language again. She had some ancient lineage into Egypt. In fact, on our trip, we actually stayed with her husband in the whare, in the house. And we went to Egyptian weddings. We went to they had sort of like 3-layer houses. So the grandparents, the parents, and everyone stayed in the different levels, and the animals. And we'd go and bake bread. We didn't bake the bread. We'd see people wahine baking the big breads, the flat breads, and all that kind of stuff. And we journeyed with everything. We were locked in different places, and they'd come and get us. So we've had a big journey together, eh? Remember when I first met you? Do you remember when that was?
Oh, that was in 2009. Yeah, it was down at a spiritual fest, yeah, like a health and spirit fest locally down at the Thames High
Yeah,
School.
yeah. That was hilarious, eh? Because like Tony and I, we were quite quantum anyway, right? And
Yes.
then we're there working on people and getting a rays of light and pulling out the DNA strands and doing all this sort of shit, right? And you and Neil showed up, and you were doing sort of like the beauty, eh? Because you were a beautician.
I felt like it was more showcasing my celebrancy. Yeah, like doing
Yes.
sacred weddings, sacred celebrations. Yeah, I was
Yes, you're
showcasing
definitely
that.
doing a lot of that. And I've always see you as you're always leading a lot of the groups, doing the openings, and you knew a lot of always known the karakias and everything, right? Sound has been a big thing for us. I get activated with sound, especially Māori, as in the te reo. That activates my memory, and that can take me into, a different frequency and into what I call the living libraries of light. We just tap into, boom, we're tapping into that, downloading it. That's how it works, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
yeah, pretty special, special.
So, sister, what is your vision for the future?
Well, I think we have always been working with the people, right? We've done the workshops. We're helping to show people tune to a different frequency, let's call it that, to open up their inner libraries of light, to clear the cellular memory, doing all that. So that's what we do. We're the visionaries, the seers. And I think a big thing that really changed me was coming out of Wellington, the protests, what we saw happen there, the truth. Um, how we lived in utopia. It was so beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And there was something that's just so dear to my heart. But when we came out of there in Harmonious Ra, Harlem Ra Tapu, he started creating spaces Aotearoa. Phenomenal. So he called in the healers, he called in all the different tribes people, right? And we had to grow the gardens, we had to hunt and gather for the food. It was giving without the expectation of receiving. We did months of mahi with that. And what actually happened when we did gather, the Māori, the life force was so high because it was so pure. The intent was pure. And so we had the tamariki zone, we had we honoured the ancestors, we actually honoured the elders and the tamariki, all of it. We had, remember our water ceremonies? They were sacred because they had collected, because we're water carriers, they had collected all the waters throughout Aotearoa from all the sacred places. And those water ceremonies were so powerful. They really touched me as well. So we left there, and Spirit kept saying to me, okay, community, 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 that we had to start grassroots community wherever we lived. So it was coming off the back of the creating space where he activated 12 centres, 12 nodal points in Aotearoa, and created another grid and a new way of being. And so the mahi that I do now really is just keeping doing an extension of what we do with our vision, collective vision, and also working with that energy as well, which we're doing, and we are actually achieving that. And I think our beautiful Mu movement, so it came from the Galactic Grandmothers of Mu. We birthed the Mu movement, and we're collecting our tribes, and we've walked with those the 13 tribes that were scattered. We're all coming back together, and together we can remember properly, remember fully. Eh?
Together we can change the weather.
We
Yeah.
can. So invite everybody, go on and have a look at our website. It's a collective memory. Again, I spoke about it before, how we get driven along. It's like our higher self, our cosmic self, our galactic self, our monads drive us on to do this mahi. We are the ground crew. And so we have to keep doing this. We have to fulfill prophecy in real time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to kōrero into that.
Yes, well, this whole purpose of ours is very simple, really. We're here to fulfill first light prophecy in real time.
Yeah.
And we've been given a divine directive, in particular connected to the rainbow prophecies of Aotearoa, first light rainbow prophecies, that not many people hear about, and they're only recently being disclosed. The first prophecy is the most ancient one, and that connects into the Waitaha grandmothers. And we're all carriers of that frequency. I personally was initiated a young grandmother of Waitaha in 2014, which gave me, I guess, the potency to be doing the water ceremonies. And I blended the waters of the world in a ceremony, the same time as Dr. Masuri Moto's family, his Shuntu master, was with us. And during that time, while we were blending the waters, which was a 4-hour ceremony, his spirit crossed over into another realm. So it was pretty significant. And then, yeah, people witnessed the incredible connection between the waters and the ceremony and what happened to Dr. Masuri Moto. So we ended up taking his spirit up to Cape Reinga and saying goodbye to him. And yes, so it was a big event. And after that blending ceremony, I was initiated, which felt really honouring, and I received the golden scarf of Waitaha as a water carrier. And their little symbol is the dog, interestingly enough, which is connected to Sirius.
Yeah.
And you know, like it's also connected to another ancient story, but you know, like we are all water carriers. And so without going too far off the track, so that's one of that's one of the rainbow prophecies, and the rainbow prophecy of Waitaha is that the grandmothers are leading the way for this next part of his story, is now becoming her story. And so she's here, she's stepping forward, she's leading the way, she's the elder of the community, and she takes care of everyone. She makes sure no one gets left behind, and she makes sure that everybody's fed, nourished, sustained, that everybody's on track, that that everyone's following sacred law, as you know, as in being in right relationship, because that's the key. We've got to be in right relationship with earth, water, sky, so that we can be whole within ourselves. And so that's the first prophecy, and she's here to walk the white rainbow, which is the peace trail, the Aior peace trail, and it's also the rainbow of the time before time. So we are reclaiming our lineage of time and coming into real-time dream time instead of the hijacked timeline, which has had a certain narrative and a certain frequency bandwidth imposed on it. And you know, all the waters were captured, and we're treading Admiralty waters, so we are going onto a different timeline with this journey. And then we have the second rainbow prophecy, which is the rainbow prophecy of Te Koti, who was the rainbow warrior that summoned in all the tribes from all around the world coming together in unity from first light. So yeah, summoning in from first light, because we were the last country on the planet to be colonized, so we actually have to be the first ones to de-shackle from the black magician spell, basically. And then the third rainbow prophecy, which is really the one that we're fulfilling now, and that's the one that Auntie Rose Pere Turiki Arikirangi, she brought through, and she's was a very much an intellect, and she was a doctor as well. So she's Dr. Rangi Rose Pere and Rangi Marie, and she brings in the teachings of Te Wheke and the 9 intelligences and the 3 hearts and the 8 arms, and how, yeah, she's bringing it all together, but she calls in all the children of Rānati Rā, which are the rainbow warriors, the children of the sun, who are ready to walk the peace trails and who are ready to share this quantum mind that's here for us, the tentacular wisdom of Te Wheke, which we have behind us right here. And so, and ANHARA's got it behind her too. So it's a pretty special time. So it's
That's
definitely
really special.
divine time to shine. And it's also like Te Koti also talked about the blue diamond, and we holding that consciousness. The blue diamond is, you know, humanity at its highest point.
Yeah. It's quite interesting because I think I studied Dr. Rangimarie Turiki Rose Pere's teachings 3 years ago. And what I liked about them is that they had the wellness model. You know, it addressed all the parts of our body. And it just really struck a chord with me again. So I really immersed myself in that. But I've had sort of 3 kind of altered state experiences of there. I was down in our Takaroa portal on your whenua, Te Raukura, and we all have a 13 grandmother Te Kolka tree, right? And yours and mine are right beside each other. And I was plaiting all the dry leaves off that. Just Spirit said, start plaiting that. So I was sort of like weaving the tribes in. And then I felt the energy come in. I knew someone was around me, and one of the sisters said, "Oh, Dr. Rangi Maria Rose Pere's right beside you," because they're all seers too. See, it's always so much fun, right? And so that was that. And then her niece, we were doing another workshop, and she came behind her niece, and I said, "Oh, you know, your auntie is right beside you right now." But recently I had one significant one. We'd been working in the altered states, and I just started to go into this kind of like sort of inner reverie thing. It's like something shifts within me, and I get tapped into a frequency, tuned to a different frequency. And I felt we're working with Te Wheke again, and I just felt the kind of like Te Wheke open up. It was like a vision. And next minute, Dr. Rangi Marie came in the violet flame with her. She had a toko stick because she actually had a wheke on the end of her toko stick. And she came in like an ascended being, you know, with this energy. And then also at that same time, the wheke spat out the ink that they have, right? It's the invisibility ink, I think. And all those colours, all the purples sort of merged with each other. And I was actually in an elevated state, you know, as I was when I had the experience with the Sphinx in the room. They take me on these elevated states. There was also a couple of other times the Sphinx at Te Kohanga, Kura Tawhiti, and at Te Waipounamu, South Island. I felt the Sphinx come under my feet. I felt this energy. First of all, I feel an energy, and then I feel it coming up, and it came up and it was right over me, bearing in mind, like, I'd been to Egypt and that, and it downloaded me with like this higher dimensional codes, and it took me into a love state. And that's what happened with the activation with Dr. Rangi Marie. I was in a kind of a higher vibrational love state. And I could stay there in those states for 3 days max. After that, I dropped frequency and I'm back to me again, you know. But that's what happens. They're like these triggers that happen. You're having a kōrero with the Wairua tapu realm. And it's pretty magical.
That's beautiful, sister.
Yeah.
Well, we are coming to the end of our session together, sister. So, was there any last words that you'd like to leave our audience? And also, how do people get in touch with you because of your offerings and your readings and all the things that you bring? I guess through the Moo Movement, you've got your own page, practitioner page there. Yeah.
I just want to say, trust yourself, trust your guidance, your inner guidance. You know, because when you don't believe yourself, that's when you drop frequency and you start being all over the place. So just trust that you're, you know, I do a lot of muscle testing. So I ask if I'm unsure about anything, I will muscle test. And there's various different ways of doing that to see if, you know, something is for me or not for me, or am I getting a lesson off someone, or is that not about me? I'm just having to witness it or whatever. You can get hold of me on www.moomovement, one word, MUMOVEMENT.com. That's our website. You can go into the practitioner link and you'll find me in all my offerings under ANHARA, SUNDARI, and they're all there. I think I've got 4 or 5 offerings. If you want to expand your knowledge, if you want to open up to who you truly are, all those offerings are there for you. Yeah, that's the best way to get to know me, and on one-on-one. And also you can text me on Facebook Messenger. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, beautiful sister. It's been an awesome time with you. And look forward to our next interview.
Yes, I'll be interviewing you next, Nanny T.
True that.
That's going to be cool. It's always so much fun. Okay, mā te wā.
Mā te wā.
Starlight in her bones. Starlight in her bones. ANHARA SUNDARI, born of the flame, under old constellations whispering my name. Through rivers of time and the breath of the dawn, I follow the footsteps the star elders walked on. The earth is my drum and the sky is my throne. Ancient remembrance alive in my bones. Each pulse of my heart is a luminous tone, a map of the cosmos the soul has always known. He kai wakatere ahau, hiraro iterangi. He kai tiaki wairua, erere ana iterangi. Kote ahi o ngā whetu kei roto yo kukoiwi. He ara ahau I wainganui, te whenua me te rangi. I am a navigator, I am a navigator, I am a navigator, I am a navigator, I am a navigator. where the heartbeat of Gaia was strong, where ancestors echo in drumbeat and song. Through deserts of memory, oceans of light, I gather lost fragments returning to sight. With feather and crystal, with smoke in the air, I open the gateways of ancient prayer. The wind carries stories the old ones have sown, reminding the soul it has never been alone. Ekai wakatere ahau, iraro iterangi. Ekai tiaki wa irua, erere ana iterangi. Kote ahi o ngā whetū kei rotori o pukoiwi. He ara ahau I wenganui, te whenua me te rangi. Sing through luminous spirals, the star mothers bring a whisper of galaxies flows through my breath, a keeper of thresholds between life and death. Through shadow and starlight, the pathways are shown. Each soul is a spark of the infinite known. The universe pulses wherever I roam. For